Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. It's preview day. I cannot wait for 2 o'clock. We're going to be live with our Manchester Derby preview, but we've got a lot to talk about this morning. There's a bit of a striker crisis. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Everyone's talking about that. But what I want to talk about is deal or no deal for David De Gea. There's been a story that he might be going back to Atletico Madrid next summer with Oblak leaving and potentially coming to Man United, which is a nonsense, by the way. We'll talk about that, but we're also going to be talking about the striker situation and Gakpo. I think there's an urgency to go and sign him, to be honest with you. And also, I also want to delve into something that sort of, I want a helicopter view. I want to move away from the Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, all that sort of argument about, wow, whether they should be playing or not. I want to take a helicopter view of this and look at the manager we've got and why certain players are probably struggling, and it ain't their fault because Ten Hag is a Dutch manager, and if you know how Dutch football works, you can see why some of these players are struggling to settle, I think. So we'll get into that. Welcome to the Members Club, Ray. Welcome to the Members Club, Nick. If you are a member, I've got a video coming out for you, hopefully later on today, if not tomorrow morning. Fantasy Premier League. We've got a Fantasy Premier League for the members, haven't we? And we've not done a video on where everybody's standing after the first stage. So we're going to get that up for you tomorrow as well. Lots to get into, but we're going to start off. I'm pumped today. You've got to pump it up. Don't you know? Pump it up. You've got to pump it up. Actually, I just want to say rest in peace to Coolio. Actually, I've just brought the mood down completely. I love Gangster's Paradise. Been spending most my life living in the Gangster's Paradise. Love it. Absolutely love it. And rest in peace. I was gutted when I woke up this morning and I saw that. But I'm still going to pump it up. You've got to pump it. I am. I'm always like this. When the international break's over and Premier League football is within touching distance, I've just done my North London Derby combined 11 for That's Football, and it's got me right in the mood. Remember, you can check out the combined 11 that me and Ben Foster did for Man United, Man City. I got a red in. It's like when my mum's playing me at snooker. Rubbish. But I potted a red. Yeah, I got a red in. So look, let's go straight into this. There was a story last night about David De Gea going to Atletico Madrid. Bullshit. It's nonsense. I know the situation at Man United. I think I read the situation about United a couple of days ago, and it is the situation at Manchester United. Deal or no deal for David De Gea? I'm going to run a poll on that. I'm spontaneous today. So new deal for De Gea. You can get involved because we're interactive. Effectively, the situation with Manchester United and David De Gea is stable. It's stable like our defence. Erik Ten Hag at the moment has rejuvenated and revitalised our season after 2 horrific losses, one of which was very, very mainly to do with David De Gea, who was crap against Brentford, but retained his place, new back four, communication, concentration, camaraderie, trust and respect, received, results, blossom. David De Gea and that back four, Ten Hag is very, very happy with at the moment. There is no, he can't play out from the back, this, that and the other. He's very happy with that back five and he's very happy with De Gea at the moment. There is no talk of David De Gea not getting a new deal or David De Gea getting a new deal. Like Delot, like Rashford, like Fred, like a few others, he's out of contract in the summer with the option of another year. What David De Gea knows and what Ten Hag has said is that this season is an opportunity for David De Gea to be Man United's number one, which he has earned. Last season he played very well. He has been given the opportunity, not Dean Henderson, not Tom Heaton, not Dubravka, or not a new goalkeeper. Ten Hag said to David De Gea, you're the number one. I respect that. I want my goalkeeper to be a certain type of goalkeeper, and I'm going to give you this season to show me that you can continue your legacy at Manchester United, which you deserve, as my goalkeeper. That is what Ten Hag has said to De Gea, and that is the challenge for David De Gea this season. Doesn't matter what agendas you see on Twitter. Doesn't matter how people think we need to get rid of De Gea. Doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Erik Ten Hag and David De Gea are on the same page. There is a respect there. But Ten Hag, at the end of this season or during this season, will make his mind up about what he wants to do with David De Gea. And the Manchester United board, no matter how much they would like to renew that contract, will not be allowed to renew that contract until Ten Hag has made his mind up. Morning, Mark. One of my favourite Man United comebacks was the 2-1 win over Villarreal. Ronaldo with the winner 1 year ago today, says Blazing Ace. And I would give him a new deal. He's a legend of the club, but wages are too high, says Mikael Roach. It's interesting, 62% of you would give him a new deal. But look, I think sometimes you've got to jump in on the nonsense, because when you hear nonsense about David De Gea going back to Atletico Madrid in September, I have to jump on this and say it's nonsense, because it's September, our defence is doing really well. I don't mind people talking about players not in the team, whether it's Dean Henderson at Forest or Maguire or Luke Shaw or Ronaldo or Casemiro. They are relevant topics, because can they get back in the team? Do they need to be sold? But people talking about David De Gea when our defence is doing really well and we need stability, we've got to stop being that, really. You can say Maguire needs to focus on his football and work hard to get back in the team, and he does. But we as fans aren't perfect. We, I believe, and me included, when Ten Hag's picking a team and it's doing well, we need to be behind that team. I may have a preference on who should play in the midfield on Sunday, but I know it's probably going to be McTominay, Eriksen and Bruno with Casemiro on the bench, and I'll be okay with that, even though I probably wouldn't do it. David De Gea is our goalkeeper this season. Next summer is when you can start saying, let's get rid of him for this. Not now. We don't need that sort of toxicity conversation out there. Obviously, some of you think we need to move De Gea on. Obviously, some of you think we need to keep him. You know what? I'm a massive fan of David De Gea, but I've always said, well, not always, I've been saying it since June, I'll make my mind up during the season, which is what Ten Hag's going to do, because we do need a goalkeeper that can pass out from the back. I believe that De Gea can do it, but it's not a guarantee that he will be able to do it. And that's the opportunity that is in front of him. So I just think this is a conversation that needs to disappear about David De Gea, because he's not going anywhere for at least 7 months. And where we are, we're going to the Etihad on Sunday, and we need to be focused on that. And David De Gea is our goalkeeper. So deal or no deal for David De Gea, right here, right now, no deal. I don't need to give David De Gea, Marcus Rashford, Fred, I don't need to give them new deals at the moment, because I don't think they justify a new deal at the moment. Maybe in 2 months, maybe in 3 months, maybe in 4 months. The only player I would be giving a new contract to at the moment is Dalot. I think he's the only one where you go, shit, we need him on a new deal, because Dalot's the only one I think that if you leave it, other clubs are going to start making offers for him. No, I don't think anyone's queuing up to buy Fred, Luke Shaw, David De Gea. I don't think anyone's really queuing up for Rashford at the moment. But he's one you've got to keep an eye on. For me, Dalot's the one that you need to get that deal done at the moment. So I think with De Gea at the moment, look, can I just say about Oblak? I heard somebody say yesterday, De Gea to Madrid, Oblak to Man United. What a crock of nonsense. At least analyse football properly. David De Gea and Oblak are basically the same. You're just picking the better shot stopper. Oblak with his feet is no better than De Gea. And he's not particularly good at coming out his box either. So this is fine. There will be people out there that don't consume football to the level maybe you do. And they go, oh, Oblak's world class, I'd take him over De Gea. But you're wrong. You cannot say De Gea doesn't suit our system, let's buy Oblak. That is exactly the same. So Oblak is not the tune. And I like Oblak, very good goalkeeper. But if you want a ball-playing goalkeeper, we did a video on it last week, you're talking people like Lafont, Sanchez, Raya, Simon, Maignan, people like that. That's what you're talking about. Meslier, maybe at Leeds. You're not talking Oblak. So, yeah, that is not a deal that we can do. So I would just say a little bit of patience with David De Gea. He will be here for this season, and I wouldn't give him a new deal at the moment. But I wouldn't refuse. Some people wouldn't give him a deal at all. I just wouldn't do it yet. I wouldn't do it yet. But 63% of you would. So there you go. 37% no. There we go. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you get involved. Right. The next thing I want to talk about is the striker situation. I'm going to do the preview live at 2 o'clock. I cannot wait. I'm so excited to do the preview derby. It feels so long. That's what she said. It feels so long since Manchester United played a Premier League game, because it is so long. We've had the major scenes in the UK with the passing of the Queen, and Manchester United played their Premier League game a week before that. That's how long ago that Arsenal game was. Play Man City on Sunday. Cannot wait. But we do have a bit of a striker issue. And that striker issue is that... And who would have thought this would be classed as a striker issue? The only player that we've got fit to play up front at the moment definitely is Ronaldo. Our player of the year and one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And that is a striker crisis. But it actually is. Because Martial, there's no pictures of him. Nobody knows whether he's going to come back. Rashford, we don't know whether he's back. And therefore, we don't really have anybody else. We'll be talking about this more in depth in the preview. But my information is that Martial is doubtful and probably won't be used. And that Rashford is 50-50. And obviously Ronaldo is fit. Now, what we need to do, I'm going to talk about this in a couple of minutes. We need to understand our manager. And we're always learning about Erik ten Hag. I personally think Marcus Rashford may well be available for the game on Sunday, but he ain't playing 90 minutes because that's not what Ten Hag does. We've already learnt that. Ten Hag doesn't pick players for 90 minutes when they're not ready for 90 minutes. And look at Anthony, he gave him an hour. He's done that all the time. So maybe Rashford plays 60 minutes and Martial and Ronaldo plays 30. Maybe they do it the other way around. But that's if Rashford can be in a position to play. This is a massive game, by the way. There is positivity there. I heard somebody saying this morning, oh, Rashford and Martial are out. It's a Manchester derby. United are releasing pictures on purpose. I haven't seen a picture of Donny, but we know he's back in training. So Martial and Rashford, they might not be releasing pictures because they don't want Pep to know. This is a huge game. A huge game. You've got to play the game. And if I'm Erik ten Hag, I don't want Pep Guardiola to know Rashford's out or in. In, out, shake it all about, you know, the okie dokie. No, I don't want him to know. So there could be some mind games going on here. But I will admit that in a game like this, it doesn't suit Ronaldo. It doesn't suit Ronaldo this game, does it? I know it because we're not going to spend 70% of our time in the Man City half whipping in crosses into a deep line penalty box, which Ronaldo would thrive on. We're going to be hitting on the break, and there's going to be a lot of running around, which doesn't necessarily suit Ronaldo. So I think that it's going to be very interesting. But bringing it back to a news point, I saw that Romano was saying yesterday that Gakpo in January is still very likely. We know that Southampton and Leeds wanted Gakpo towards the end of the transfer window, so he may not have even been an option for us. We were interested in Gakpo. There was talk of us getting Gakpo and Anthony. We got Anthony and we left Gakpo. I think, and I don't know what you think, I think we've got to go back in for Gakpo. I think that this weekend is a prime example of the issues that we're going to keep having. I don't think you can sit here and go, well, we're a bit unlucky going into the Manchester derby with Rashford and Martial injured. I think I can see that happening a lot over the next couple of years. If Rashford and Martial are going to be part of our future, I think we're going to have this a lot, where neither of them are fit and you're like, well, we've only got Ronaldo, Anthony, Elanga and Sancho. We need another striker option. And I think Gakpo's perfect because the great thing about Gakpo is not only is he an exciting talent coming through who looks ready to come into the Premier League, I also think he's a player that if he goes to Southampton, he starts. If he goes to Leeds, he starts. If he comes to Manchester United, he's a Leeds or Southampton starter. So maybe he doesn't start, but he'll get a lot of getting time. You develop him, and he can play in multiple positions. He can play off the left, he can play up front. I think we've got to go and buy this sort of striker. I know we did the video a few days ago and we were talking about the Osimhens of this world, the Jonathan Davids, the Ivan Tonys, lots of options out there as we know, even Tammy Abraham. But I think Gakpo is a really interesting profile of striker to go and get. We've got good connections with PSV as well, haven't we? I mean, we bought Ruud from there, didn't we? And Ruud's the manager now. So a reasonable price, I think we've got to go and get Gakpo in January. I really do. We've probably put a lot of work in there. If we had Gakpo now, we would be calmer going into this Manchester derby because we'd be saying, you could play Gakpo through the middle. You know, he's quick. He's going to cause that defence problems. I think I've only really started thinking about, I like the idea of the signing. I think a lot of people do. But over the last 48 hours, I've really thought a few times, I wish we had just spent the 30 million to get Gakpo because he'd be invaluable to us over the next few weeks. I mean, the Martial injury is a concern, isn't it? He's been out for a very long time. And I didn't think the injury was that severe. So he's been out for about 6-7 weeks, and if he's not back for Man City, that's a severe injury. 6-7 weeks is a severe injury. So Rashford, I don't think he's over his injury problems either. I think the way he plays football, he's going to pick up injuries. He's a very powerful player, and playing up front, it's going to be more physical for him. Yeah, I'm not saying we made a mistake not getting Gakpo, but I think we can rectify these issues by getting a player in January, and we're not going to get Osman in January. We're not going to get Tony in January. And the great thing about Gakpo is his fluidity. He can play anywhere across the front three, and I think we need that. I feel we may not have had the striker issue if that situation. I won't say it happened earlier this year. Says Sagna. I don't know what situation you're talking about. Sesko would have been good. Ahmed says we're broke. And Danish says, Martial injury worries me. We won't sign anyone in January, sadly. But I think there's good value in Gakpo as well. He's an exciting player. I think Ten Hag has shown that he can develop players in the short time that we've got him. And the price tag of Gakpo is going to be around 30-40 million. So I think it's a good deal for United to go and do. And we do need that fluid. I mean, basically for me, Gakpo's Elanga. And Elanga's just not it. I really want Elanga to be it, but I don't think he is it yet, and he should be in the Championship learning his trade. So if you bought Gakpo in, you could loan Elanga out, and then you've got Gakpo, Anthony, Ronaldo, Martial, Rashford, Sancho. I'd be very happy with that. We're just a little bit weak in the attack, and my big concern is I just think we're going to have more and more weeks where Rashford and Martial are not available at the same time. I think there are going to be injury problems with those two players because, and I'm not, people say, stop being so negative. I'm not being negative. I'm talking about the last 2 years. Rashford and Martial have been injury prone. So sometimes in football, you've got to look at the last 2 years. And the start of the season's not been great in that sense as well either. So, and look, as well, we've got 13 games coming up in 6 weeks. If Martial and Rashford are not quite ready for the start of these games, how many of them are they going to miss? How slowly is Ten Hag going to have to feed them in? If Rashford plays on Sunday for an hour, he's not going to play on Thursday. Can he play 90 against Everton the following Sunday? So they're going to have to be fed in very, very gently. But it'd be very interesting to see how we do that. And I'm not criticising United not for getting Gakpo, but I think we need to go and get him in January. I think we need that sort of player to come into Manchester United. Ollie ruined a lot of these players, as Avery. Well, look, Solskjaer's gone. We need to move on, don't we? But yeah, there's been mismanagement. The great thing is, those days are over. Playing players when they're injured, yes, it used to happen. We know it used to happen. Those players have come out and said it happened. This will not happen under Eric Ten Hag. Harry Maguire's out of the Manchester derby. He's out of it. He wasn't going to start anyway, but he's out. There is absolutely no way Eric Ten Hag will see Harry Maguire on Monday night running around for 10 minutes with an injury and then say you're playing on Sunday or even on the bench. I think he'll say to him, one, why were you running around with an injury for 10 minutes in what was basically a meaningless friendly for England? You're not playing on. You're not even going to be on the bench on Sunday. I'm a manager that ain't playing you for 5 minutes when 6 days ago you've been running around with an injury. You're not playing. The first game you're going to be back is Thursday against the Cypriot team, and that's if you can prove my fitness. And that's not because he's going to have a go at Maguire. That's just the way Ten Hag works. You saw it with his new signings. You saw it with Ronaldo when he didn't have a pre-season. You're off after 45 minutes. You're off after an hour to the second, because that's how methodical Ten Hag is. From Thailand, hardly have chance to watch you live. You're amazing in your viewpoint about our loved club. Please, can you keep up the good work here up, says hi. Thank you very much. Always nice to know that people around the world are watching. We have a fantastic fan base, and we've got a fantastic don't forget, 2 o'clock preview. Can't wait for it. Excited. Right. I want to talk to you about this. It's very interesting. I was having a chat with somebody last night, and it was a really interesting chat. I don't get to have these chats very often. It was quite a tactical chat. We were basically talking about the transition of Ten Hag at Manchester United and how it started off with, if you look at the defence that Solskjaer picked, De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof, Shaw. And if you look at the defence that Ten Hag now has, De Gea, Delot, Varane, Martinez, Malacia. It's not being spoken about in the depth it should be being spoken about. That is a whole new back four compared to... And Rangnick picked that back four as well. Let's not forget, Rangnick was Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof, and either Delo or Wan-Bissaka. So we've had a back four for 4 years that's been completely ripped apart and replaced in 4 weeks. And they've had 4 wins in a row in the Premier League. It's not been spoken about enough. So the conversation we were having last night was, one, why has Ten Hag done that? Well, obviously he's done that because the defence didn't do very well. But under Solskjaer or maybe even Rangnick, it would be, we need to work on that defence. You'll play the next game. With Ten Hag, it was like I'm ripping it down and I'm going with a different defence. I think that it's not been mentioned enough how, and I don't know why it's not being mentioned. And some people would say, well, it's because it was basically an English back four, and people don't want to the English press don't want to highlight that because there's a bias. Maybe that is the case, but I think there's a very simple reason what's going on here, and it's also to do with Manchester United in general. Erik Ten Hag is Dutch. Dutch management from the 70s has always had an arrogance, and it's always operated teams that have arrogant players in it who are opinionated leaders and encouraged to be tacticians and managers on the pitch and in the dressing room. If you look back to total football in the 70s with Cruyff, and you look back to the 90s when Cruyff was a manager at Barcelona and Van Gaal was starting out at Ajax, the principles of Dutch football has always been to play good football, but it's always been to promote character and to promote thought and to promote people and players that effectively challenge each other on the pitch and in the dressing room. And then you have a manager that encourages that, but ultimately puts their foot down and says, I'm the boss. People will say, well, that's logical, but it's not. It's very much a cultural thing within Dutch football. And I would explain this better by saying that if you know your football and you know your international football, stereotypically, the Dutch team has always been perceived as a team that implodes on itself. Always. I think we've had it with Edgar Davids leaving a major tournament, Hullet. There's always been this stereotypical and somewhat true opinion that the Dutch team will implode from inside because there's always issues in the Dutch team. It's a bit lazy, but the reason the Dutch team has that stereotypical view of being a team that can implode like no other is because it's actually encouraged in Dutch football that players in the dressing room and on the pitch have a voice. Because what Van Gaal and Cruyff wanted, and many Dutch managers want, is they want their players to have a personality and they want them to be able to solve problems on the pitch. Now, if you think back to a different manager, whether it's an English manager or whatever, a lot of English football is about being told what to do. You are doing this job, you do this job. At half time, that's not working, you do that. So in Dutch football, what they want you to do on the pitch is to spot a tactical change by the opposition team and adapt to it on the pitch. They want you to be tactical thinkers on the pitch. Whereas a lot of players in the English game, they're not encouraged to do that. They're told to change from the touchline. Mourinho is a manager that would not want players to tactically be adapting on the pitch, for example. Mourinho is a very methodical dictator as a manager. This is my team, this is how it works. So how does that work with Manchester United at the moment? And this is what we're learning. We're learning this because we've got a manager now that has revolutionised that Manchester United side. Now, we may well get beat 4-0 at the weekend. We're up against one of the greatest managers in the world. But Pep Guardiola is also a manager that's very overbearing in what he wants, but he also wants his players to be intelligent on the pitch. We are transforming from a team that basically had no voice and no desire to have a voice and basically would go 1-0 down and heads would drop. We're transforming into a team that is encouraged to have a voice, that is encouraged to work together, that is encouraged to solve problems on the pitch together. And we're seeing that with our back four. The high fives from Delo and Varane and everyone like that is so pleasing on the eye because it's passion, it's enthusiasm, but it's also an indicator of the management on the pitch from players. The fact that they are working together and solving problems together, and then when they're solving those problems are encouraged and the high fives, everything. Eriksen, Bruno, Martinez, Varane, Ronaldo, Rashford, Sancho. These are all intelligent players, or they are leaders. And it is working really, really well for Manchester United at this moment in time. And this is something that I'm not reading about this enough, because I think that people are going, well, we just don't know anything about Ten Hag. But the clues are in the pudding. The clues are in the history of Dutch football. Dutch managers are arrogant, but not in a bad way. And players are arrogant because they believe in themselves and they are intelligent and they want to encourage that. And I think we're benefiting from it. I do. I think we're really benefiting from it. And I think that the big indicator for me in these early days are that defence of Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof and Shaw, you could tell that defence was from the training ground. You could tell that they were doing things they'd been told to do. And then when it went wrong, they didn't really know what to do. And that's why we're getting smacked up so much. And that's why the heads were dropping. You look at the back four now, I think they're being told what to do by Ten Hag, but they've also got the character and personality as a back four that they're improved, that they're adapting on the pitch. There's a total contrast. And I think it's reflected in the whole team. In the midfield, Eriksen, that midfield's got an identity now. If you look at McTominay and Fred, they're told to do a job last season, and then the job doesn't work and it all falls apart. With Eriksen in that midfield, he's told the job to do by Ten Hag, but he's also intelligent enough to, out on the pitch, adapt. And it's that simple to me. And this is what you're going to get with Ten Hag, and you get it to a certain extent with Pep and Klopp as well. The players that we've got in that team now, when things aren't going wrong, they've got the intelligence and personality and desire to adapt on the pitch and lead on the pitch. And Ten Hag encourages that because that's what Dutch football's always been about. Over the last 3 years, those players didn't have the intelligence or the freedom or the desire or knowledge to adapt on the pitch. And that's a key thing that's just been completely missed. I'm very surprised that some of these journalists that talk a good game sometimes have not actually written an article about that. The history of Dutch football, what the personality of Dutch football, which runs through most Dutch football players and managers, and certainly Ten Hag and Van Gaal and Cruyff, on how they want their players and identity to be. And it goes back to what I said. If you think about World Cups and Euros, people will always say the Dutch, they're capable of winning this tournament, but their biggest enemy is, will they implode from the inside? And actually, it's a bit unfair because they're encouraged to implode from the inside, because they're encouraged to debate and be personalities tactically. But it benefits you on the pitch when you can produce the teams that have been produced in club football. Maybe it's not happened loads in international football, but you're encouraged in Dutch football to be a thinker. You're encouraged in Dutch football to be a problem solver on the pitch. You are not encouraged to be somebody who goes and plays for someone like Jose Mourinho and just do as you're told. What's better? I'm not saying what's better and what's worse. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is we are now starting to get that type of management at Manchester United. And unfortunately, some of our players are incapable of doing it because they suit being told what to do better than actually being a thinker on the pitch. I can look at that team and think, yeah, I can see why you're struggling, because you're not a thinker on the pitch. You're a doer. You need to be told what to do simply and go out and do it. The players that are doing really well at United at the moment, they're intelligent players, they're leaders, they're thinkers. Juan Mata would have been brilliant under Ten Hag. Juan Mata at 26 would have been brilliant under Ten Hag because he was a master tactician on the pitch. Yeah. And I think we'll see more and more players like that. There we go. Sorry I went on a bit of one there, but I wanted to get it across as to where this team is going. And I think that it is a lot to do with Ten Hag, and also a lot of it, people... There was an ignorance about Ten Hag, wasn't there? We want Poch, use Ten Hag. And it's like people just didn't understand the history and style of Dutch football. And it's more than Dutch football, It's more than Dutch football. It's actually Amsterdam football. It's the personality of Amsterdam. That whole... there is an arrogance, but arrogance, I think, comes across as a harsh word. It's it's confidence and that air of, you know, I want to express myself, I want to be creative, and it's encouraged. It's encouraged. Anyway, look, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. I love talking about that sort of stuff, and I think we are benefiting massively from it. And I think there is an undercurrent of Ten Hag that people are learning more and more about that will come out as revelationary articles, but actually, as we've just discussed for the last 5 minutes there, it's a philosophy that's been around for many decades, and it's something that Ten Hag will encourage. We don't have a manager that is a dictator. We have a manager who's the boss. And that's a very different thing. The boss is the boss, and that means I drop the players, I pick the players, it's my team. If you cross me, you're in trouble. But he also encourages conversation. I guarantee he's in conversation with Bruno, Eriksen, Ronaldo, Varane. And look, you know what? On a very basic level, look at Delo and McTominay. What personality are they? Do you think they're quiet? Forget their ability. Do you think Delo and McTominay are quiet players who just want to go out and be told what to do? I think it's very clear that Scott McTominay, whatever you think about him as a player, is vocal and wants to be involved. And I think Delo, when you listen to some of his interviews, is vocal and wants to be involved. Characters. They're characters who put themselves forward, who are passionate about the game. Is it any surprise that they're doing well at the moment? Fred. Is Fred one of those characters? I don't know. Is Luke Shaw one of those characters? I don't know. Is Maguire? Is Lindelof? Is Wan-Bissaka? You can almost, and I'm not saying they're not, but there's question marks. And the players that are doing well at the moment are clearly those players that are expressive in the way they play football, but also their personality. And basically what we need to get back to is what Sir Alex Ferguson had in the early days. Gary Pallister, Steve Bruce, Dennis Irwin, Roy Keane, Paul Ince, Ryan Giggs, Eric Cantona, Mark Hughes, Peter Schmeichel. These expressive, vocal leaders. And is it any wonder that that Ten Hag is hopefully trying to get us back to that? That's right, Mark. The whole Fergie time thing wasn't just Sir Alex Ferguson. It was having a team that would fight to the end. We're starting to see it again, says Glenn. It's personality and it's trust. And it's siege mentality. And you know what it is? If you contrast Sir Alex Ferguson with Jose Mourinho, Jose Mourinho is a dictator manager. It's my way. I run this team from top to bottom. And it can be very successful. It can win you league titles. It can win you Champions Leagues. Sir Alex Ferguson, I'm the boss. But as a team, we lead. We adjust. We adapt. Roy Keane was Sir Alex Ferguson on the pitch. But it wasn't just Roy Keane. Cantona, Bruce, Pallister, Rio, Vidic, Giggs, Beckham, Scholes. This United team has been run badly for a long time. We've recruited badly for a long time. You can buy a good footballer who basically just wants to be told what to do. You can buy a good footballer who's not as good, but wants to be a leader and wants to be adaptive and intelligent on the pitch. And I think that's what Ten Hag's going to do. Will Maguire ever be good enough for Man United, Mark, says Dan. Mate, his chance could come up in the next week. It might not come up for a couple of months. As long as Martinez and Varane are fit, he's going to be on the bench. But there will be rotation. There will be injury. He's just got to be ready. I think the Luke Shaw mentality is right. Support the team, work hard, wait for my opportunity, take it. That's what Maguire needs to do. But also, I think when you get your chance, you've also got to be better than you were before. Like, you've got to be tactically a leader. There's a difference between shouting and organising a wall for a free kick, and there's a difference between being intelligent enough to see what the opposition are doing and adapting your game and those around you and communicating. And that's what we need. We need football intelligence. We don't need football apathy. I wanted Ten Hag because I saw what he'd done at Ajax, and I also know that he learned from Guardiola, where they were both at Bayern, says Games CGG. And yeah, look, let's not forget Pep Guardiola wants intelligent players, and he's not Dutch, he's Spanish. So Ten Hag has that Dutch mentality and way of promoting players who are thinkers, but then he obviously learns a lot from Pep as well. Thanks everyone for watching. 2 o'clock preview, can't wait. Loved the show this morning. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone who joined the members club, by the way. Really appreciate that. And I will speak to you at 2 o'clock for the preview, which I cannot wait. We're going to be live. Speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.